What is a secondary source? A secondary source is something that we create because maybe we weren't involved in the event we're talking about. Let's say we're talking about the Second World War. We are going to take those primary source documents that we found in the archives or in the library, and we're going to combine them into our interpretation of the past. We're going to take that initial research question, which we did a video about previously. We're going to supplement that with those firsthand accounts of the different time periods, those primary sources, and we're going to create a secondary source. We weren't involved in the time period in the era that we're talking about, but we are finding the words and documents and photographs through the primary sources to create the narrative so that we can pass the stories along. We are creating secondary sources. That could be a book, that could be a magazine article, that could be a textbook, it could be a documentary. Those are all instances of secondary sources. It's up to us to make sure that our research is grounded in fact. We have the data to support it through the primary sources, our interpretation of those sources. Remember, there are certain questions we have to ask when we look at first hand accounts, and then we compile them into larger works. Your best friend, when you are looking at where people get their research from, is taking a look in their books and looking at the bibliography. The historian's friend is the bibliography of every single book because we can find out what primary sources did you use for your research? What other secondary sources did some authors use for their research along the way as well? Because you can use both. But you want much of your work to be grounded in primary source materials. And we can find those things out in the bibliography of secondary sources, which you can find in abundance at your local library.